What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ali Iqbal podcast. We're doing a great show for you guys today. If you guys are interested in everything related to real estate, New York, Long Island, uh, or anything, we're going to go a lot beyond that as well. So, whatever topics you're interested in, I'm sure that we'll have time to cover it. Uh, Today, hey, I'm joined with a very good friend of mine. I've known him for quite a long time, and before we begin, really, I kind of have to plug myself, obviously. My name is Ali Iqbal. I'm a Coldwell banker. I work at Coldwell Banker Residential in Smithtown. I'm a real estate agent. If you guys are interested in buying or selling a home, I want to make your process as easy and convenient as possible. Give me a call, 631-604-8567. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce one of my very good friends. I've known him for quite a while, and honestly, I wouldn't rather have anybody else to be my first guest on this podcast in the debut episode. Everybody, please give a very warm welcome to my good friend, Charles Weinraub, aka the Handsome Homebuyer, aka Captain Permit, aka
El Judío Maravilloso. You speak Spanish too? Fuck. You do everything. You do it all.
Yeah, man, this is how it is. I'm still upset, kind of jealous that you took the Handsome Homebuyer name.
I'm sorry, but if it makes you feel better, it wasn't really your fault because you were in diapers when I picked it. You didn't even know what handsome was. So
yeah,
I beat you to the punch. It wasn't for lack of creativity. It was just, you were like in the womb at the time. So don't beat yourself up.
That used to be my original name. I used to go by Handsome Ali. That's what my name used to be. And it was actually named after my favorite video game character, Handsome Jack from the Borderlands series. He was like one of my heroes. He's still one of my heroes and like a huge idol for me. So I basically chosen the name off of that. I still might steal it at this point. It's not copyrighted.
It's all right. Yeah, no, it's all right.
Awesome. All right, Charles. Just for us, I know you probably get asked this question like a million times, so bear with me a little bit. But just for those of us out there who may not be familiar with you or your brand, if you could just give a little bit of a summary about what you're about, where you came from, who you are, what you're doing, how you got into real estate, and what you're doing now.
Sure. So, born in Brooklyn, raised in Wanto, Long Island. I am a real estate investor developer. So I've been in the business for 5.5 years. I'm the #1 fix and flip investor on Long Island. I've done over 300 houses in the last 5 years. I also have a master's degree at NYU in real estate development, which I finished earlier this year. And now I have a number of very large commercial development projects going on Long Island, from assisted living, to Starbucks, to self-storage, to affordable housing. And the sky's the limit. My ultimate goal in the next 3 to 5 years is to start a private equity fund and ride off into the sunset. So that's a little bit of background about who I am. How I got into real estate was I owned a body shop franchise called Mako before this. Like, better get Mako on TV. Do you ever heard of Mako, or are you too young for Mako?
No, I never heard of it. I'm not familiar.
It's really upsetting when you get to the point where like you don't know anybody in high school anymore, or people don't remember. Like, oh yeah, remember that TV show? You're like, no. So it's all right. It'll happen to you. Within a blink of an eye, it'll happen to you. Hopefully you get to keep the hair though, because the hair is on point.
Thank you.
So I owned a body shop franchise for 10 years. When I was 28 years old, a friend of mine gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I read it and it changed my life. I was like, that's it. I'm going to be a professional real estate investor. Forget about smelling this paint all the time. I can't do this. This isn't what I love. Because it was a good living, but I wasn't happy. I didn't like what I was doing. Again, but by most people's standards, it was a very good business. I owned it, and I could have just had a very nice life doing that. But I wasn't happy. So I took a class at NYU on foreclosures. So, because everybody thinks when they first get into real estate, banks are just giving houses away. That's how you get inexpensive houses, which is not the case. So, but when I was at this class, the instructor said, you should go and join the local RIAs. So RIAs stand for Real Estate Investment Associations, REIA. And I met my mentor, Carl Chavone, there. And I trained with him for like 4 years before I ever was ready to do a real estate deal. Then it took me a year just to find my first house. And then at that point, I had proof of concept, put the Mako up for sale, sold the business itself, and the rest is history.
Awesome, man. That's good to hear. Next, we're gonna be talking also a little bit about. I'm not too sure if you're familiar with this. I wanted to talk a little bit about newer brokerage models and brokerage models of the future,
Mhm.
the buying or selling real estate.
Sure.
What do you think is the brokerage model of the future? Where do you think things are going?
So from the real estate broker standpoint, like as if I'm a real estate broker who has agents working underneath me.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think I have this thing I call broker beef, where I think 99.999% of real estate brokers out there do not give their people any value at all, zero. So if I was going to open up a real estate brokerage and try to take over that sector of the market, what I would do, you have to be on the cutting edge. So agents come in. First of all, I wouldn't just take any agent. Typical brokers will take anybody with a pulse. They're just like, come in here. For me, you would have to be doing a certain amount of business. If you're not grossing a certain amount of business, then it's not worth putting the resources 95% of the time for somebody like that. You don't just need people on there just to have bodies on there. You want people that are producing. So that's number one. Number two is, now that you're doing this, now that you have these people here that are top producers, you have to be giving them value. So what do they want? They need constant real education from performing high-level people that are going to help them grow their business, right? On a weekly basis, every other week, you need to be giving them constant resources and constant education. And then you need to help them market. So I know the biggest and best agents on Long Island, the top producers, I know all of them. And I always say to them, like, what do you need in a broker? And they said, I need help marketing. I need help marketing. Because a lot of people have issues with marketing. So the way to market, and nobody knows better than the King Ali because he lives it every day, is social media based. So if you have a brokerage office, you need a podcast studio. You need a green screen. You need to have content creators on staff who are coming in with cameras. You need to have educational, virtual and in-person education that shows people how to create quality content, because that is it. If you're an agent who has their face on a bus stop or in a newspaper, you're going to be out of business in a few years. This is the way things are going, and that's just it. Everybody is communicating on the phone.
yeah. I definitely agree with that. What are your opinions on? I don't know if you're too familiar with some of the newer brokerage models like EXP that's coming out right now, where there's not so many lines, sort of, because the way that things are done with the traditional brokerage is that there's the top, and there's the local franchises, then there's the local brokers, then there's the agents, and costs are basically split at each level. What are your thoughts on a model like EXP, which has a regional brokerage in every area, and instead most of the money is shared with the agents, and they're really doing a really massive amount of sales at this point compared to even a lot of the traditional brokerages. A lot of people think that that's the new wave, that's the new thing, and that traditional brokerages are going to be out competed by newer brokerages like that. What are your opinions on that?
So I don't know EXP's model well enough to comment on like the intricacies of their model and if I like it or not. What I will say about the brokerage industry in general is I've compared it to like the fitness industry in the sense that it's very fatty. Like what's this, first Exit was really big a couple years back. Then it was Realty Connect. Now it's EXP. The real fact of the matter is that a lot of times it's not necessarily a better product. And again, I don't know what EXP is putting out or not. So this has nothing to do with them. But a lot of agents are not producing the way they want to be producing. And it's easy for them to blame the broker when in actuality, they have to blame themselves, because we're all responsible for our own, what happens in our own life. So the agents that are out there, like Brian Karp, who's doing 205 houses a year, or Dan O'Neill, whose team has 57 houses on the contract right now, those people, those teams are doing something different. They're taking matters into their own hand. They're taking control of their own hands, and they're going out there and making it happen. It's not the broker's responsibility. It's the broker's responsibility to help you, to educate you, to be there for you when you need somebody. But it's not the broker's responsibility to run your business. You are running your own business as a real estate agent.
Right, absolutely. I definitely 100% agree. I mean, there's also a lot of commotion. I'm not sure if you're aware. Zillow announced that they're going to be opening their new brokerage soon. And there's a lot of online models of brokerages coming out with significantly lower commission rates, and a lot of agents are worried that they're gonna be out of the job basically. And
yeah. So what do you say? So what? I don't exactly know the question.
Oh, okay. Have you ever been? I don't know if you're familiar with brokerage models like Rex or Zillow, that they charge a significantly lower commission, and the agents are usually employed on a salary basis instead of a commission basis. And it's a lot better for iBuyers and people like that. And especially since Zillow which has now announced that they're opening their own brokerage, who controls so much of the market information. They can, they're one of the biggest platforms for people to market their homes. So they have so much control and access to information. A lot of agents are worried that they're not going to be outcompeted by Zillow because of how much power they have. And I don't like to assign blame to anybody, but there are agents out there who buy significant leads from Zillow. So they're kind of feeding into that a little bit, I feel. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I wouldn't sit there and worry about what other people are doing. I would worry about, you delivering the best service and the best quality product. Like Zillow came out not that long ago and they had this thing where like they're going to buy houses sight unseen, which is a completely asinine concept. Yeah. Real estate is something that is so subjective and it's so location based and condition based. You can't just start buying houses. So that ended up ultimately being a disaster. I think if you are a well-educated agent who's marketing well, who understands the market, who has good people skills, you're always going to be in demand. Because think about it like this, what's the incentive for a Zillow agent who's on salary, who's maybe getting a bonus for a sale, to really like hone their craft and be great at what they're doing? It's the same reason why like a lot of people today maybe don't want to be doctors, because if you were, or why people come to America to see the best surgeons in most cases, because in other countries, if everyone's making the same amount, like let's say in Canada, I met a buddy of mine's a doctor up there, they don't make a lot of money. They just do it because they want to be doctors. But if you can't give people the opportunity to really excel and make a lot of money, there's no incentive for them to be truly great at what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that is ultimately going to be the issue there. If you're a great agent, I don't think you have anything to worry about it if you stay on the cutting edge of everything.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. I definitely agree with that. I mean, it's just been a lot of back and forth. I know that our political action committee has been trying to fight tooth and nail in a legal battle. I believe that they filed like an antitrust lawsuit against Zillow, and sort of been a little bit of a brawl. I don't know who's going to come out on top of that, but as you said, it's really about the agents, marketing, providing unique value, and
yeah.
Really going to keep everybody afloat. Next question. Well, there's a lot of commotion about New York City right now, and I know that you just went to Queens. Handsome goes to Queens, and you started delving into new territory. And a lot of people are afraid of the city right now. People are leaving the city. They say the city is a dump. Some people have even gone as far to say that New York City is dead forever and is never going to come back. What are your, and I also know that Manhattan is sort of, people think of it sort of as a toxic waste dump right now, but it used to be one of the areas of highest living, and everybody wants to move to Manhattan, and Manhattan is, the greatest place in the world. But it's sort of become like this disaster place now. I'm not sure if you're aware, Ryan Serhant, $1 million listing, opened his own brokerage right now.
Yep.
In Manhattan during one of the, so a lot of people have been criticizing him, saying that it's a very bad time to be opening a brokerage, especially in a place like Manhattan. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that New York City is dead, or do you think it's going to bounce back?
I think Ryan Serhant's going to take over New York City. I mean, when I hear things like, "Oh, New York City is dead," all I hear is opportunity. Because I went to New York City yesterday when I was driving around just to check it out. And listen, New York City has a lot of problems right now, but from great problems comes amazing opportunity. And the timing has to be right. So for me, I'm doing what I got to do on Long Island because the market's very hot. I'm very familiar with it. At the same time, I'm learning more about New York City because I'm going to take the proceeds of a lot of this in a year or 2 years when the current administration is gone and hopefully a better administration comes in. And I'm going to go to Manhattan. I think there's going to be some tremendous deals and tremendous opportunities there. So from great instability like what we have comes amazing opportunity. It's the same way with every cycle. Every cycle, you wait for moments like this, and when everyone's running away, you run in, you get the great deals, and then you ride the wave. When everyone is saying something is great, it's already over.
Yeah, it's saturated. I get what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? When Bitcoin was at 15,000, and everyone's like, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to 30,000," be like, "Yo, this shit's over, man. It was over 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was." Yeah. So that's the thing. I love that people are saying Manhattan is dead. I hope they say that for the next 3 to 5 years, which gives me ample time to go in there and buy a whole bunch of stuff for it to rocket back. I mean, everything has cycles and there's certain issues, but at the end of the day, and this is not to be political, this is just about leadership in general. You need quality leaders. Every time New York City has shit leaders, it goes to shit. And that's basically what you have right now.
Okay, that sounds cool. I mean, as far as I know, a lot of the agents that I know, I don't know anybody who likes to work in Manhattan. I've seen people who are touched in the city a little bit, maybe towards Queens, maybe towards the Bronx, maybe on maybe on the island, um, and staying on the island, and some people even go upstate, trying to expand a little bit. But I haven't ever seen anybody really go into Manhattan because it's just a completely different animal, as a lot of people say. It's just completely different. There's no MLS in Manhattan. How are you going to market your property? How are you going to market your listings? How are you going to get things done? So it's just a bit of difficulty on that end. What are your thoughts on? Have you thought about investing in property outside of New York? A lot of people are afraid to invest in property in New York because you know the tenant laws between landlord and tenant are a bit unusual, to say the least, in New York. So a lot of people will not invest in real estate property in New York. They would rather go to an area like Texas, where property prices are much lower. You get much more bang for your buck, and it's much easier to evict tenants, and you have much more control as a landlord. What are your thoughts about investing in other states?
So I don't invest in other states right now. I will. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with. I have buddies that own massive funds that live in New York and don't invest here, and own stuff all over Florida and the Midwest, Ohio, things like that. This the most important thing is to find out what you like, find the areas that you like, get the proper education, and then, go through the proper process. Get the education, then go out there, build your professional team. Don't be in such a rush to just buy something. Norm the areas. Get to know each individual area, right? Know what you're investing in. A lot of people just go out, they buy stuff, and then it's a disaster. Bottom line is there's a lot of money to be made everywhere, but you just have to do it the right way. You have to meet with the municipality. You have to look at the master plan. You have to see what the demographics are. You have to see what the market drivers are. Are people leaving? Are people coming in? Why are they coming in? How do you think that's going to project down the line? Is industry coming in? Is the market there hypersensitive to shifts in the economy? Is it a place like I don't know, somewhere in Texas where, let's say, it's all oil. So the moment oil prices drop and they're not pumping oil, the entire town goes to shit. Or is it a place like Albany where it's government, healthcare, and education, and it just always cruises along right through the recession? There was minimal downside. It just kept pumping along because that economy wasn't affected by what was going on. So just as long as you're informed and you're educated, you can make a lot of money outside of these places, but you need the right team and you need to be going there to check up on it. So if you have a problem going to Texas 2 or 3 times a year at a minimum, then don't invest in Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely get what you're saying, man. Have you thought about moving upstate or starting to expand your project upstate?
Not right now. I mean, there's so much business to do here right now. Like, we're buying so much stuff, and then we're starting to do a lot more of the bigger commercial stuff that right now there's no need. But there will be, and we will get into doing deals, all over the country, if not all over the world. Just for right now, we're not.
Awesome. That's good to hear, man. I hear one of the things that I hear on your page quite a bit, and I hear you say quite a bit, is generational wealth. And it really brings up to mind, what is generational wealth as you would describe it?
So buying rental properties, creating what I call generational wealth, is wealth that can be handed down from generation to generation. So so imagine for a second that you were born and your father had a 100-unit rental portfolio that was worth $10 million. He brings you into that, he educates you, and he ultimately, when he passes, hands that to you. And those assets can be grown and passed down from generation to generation, as opposed to someone that just has, a high-paying job. Like if your father's a doctor and he makes a lot of money, he can give you opportunity, but he can't pass that. He can't pass him being a doctor to you. There's no like asset like that he can pass down that can essentially be generational wealth. So generational wealth is essentially acquiring assets that can be passed down from generation to generation.
Awesome, that's good to know, man. A lot of people like myself, and a lot of other people that I went to high school with, and colleagues and friends, or people who are going to graduate this year now, they've been asking me this. They're saying, you know what, I'm not really feeling like going to college too much. I don't really think that college is for me. I don't really, like going to school. I'd rather just go into a career. Or like a lot of people want to go into real estate. A lot of people want to open their own businesses. A lot of people just want to drive straight into the workforce straight off the get-go. And as we've seen in the past years, tuition prices have sort of skyrocketed. It's gotten more and more expensive to obtain an education. And the quality or the value of an education, at least in my opinion, has been driven quite low. I mean, I feel like a lot of jobs are no longer requiring degrees in specific fields, and I think that experience has been valued more over somebody's actual degree. So what are your opinions on that? Do you think that for most people in the modern age, for new Gen Z kids who are about to go into college or have to make that decision soon, do you think that college is truly worth it?
Do I think that college is truly worth it? So it really depends on what you want to do. Like for me, I went to college because I didn't want to grow up. I was really fortunate that I had parents that were willing and able to pay for college for me. And I never wanted to grow up. I wanted to surf as much as possible and not into the real world. In general, I think the education system is failing people every single day. And as a matter of fact, student housing was a big thing. I don't buy student housing because I'm really afraid that the value of education, a formal education like that, in many cases, is losing value every single day. I mean, education is supposed to be an investment. If you are, going into hock $200,000 to come out with a piece of paper that will ultimately do something completely different than you were meant to do or going to do, then it just doesn't really make sense. In certain cases, yeah, you need that piece of paper to get a job, but to go into hock $200,000 a year to get out and get a job that you make $45,000 a year makes absolutely no sense to me. With that said, I went back to NYU. I got my master's in real estate. It cost me $100,000. It was an unbelievable investment. It has made me so much money in the last 2 years while I was in the program that it was really worthwhile. So I don't think that higher education is necessarily a waste, but I do think that rather than kids going blindly into college because that's what they're supposed to do, I think they really have to sit back and look at their self and say, what do I like? What do I want to do? What makes me happy? Ultimately, what kind of money comes out of that? And is putting myself into hock $200,000, $300,000, does that make sense? Is that an investment, or am I just really handicapping myself for the next 20 years?
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely agree with that. I think that's a question that a lot of young people need to ask themselves nowadays. Let's get into some stories. I know that you probably, as an investor, you have some crazy stories over the past 5 years or so of your experience in real estate. If you could say one of the craziest properties that you've ever had the chance to come across, what would it be? Can you recall?
I mean, we come across a lot of crazy shit, man. I mean, the worst house, and I did a video on the top 3 nastiest houses on my YouTube channel, just kind of telling the stories of the 3 worst. But the worst one was a house in Plainview. And the guy calls me up and he says, yo, did you see that video or no?
I think I did. Was it the one with the fleas?
No, no, this one actually didn't have fleas. This is one of the ones that didn't have fleas. But the guy said to me, he's like, yo, this is going to be the worst house you've ever seen. And I'm like, sir, listen, with all due respect, I'm a handsome home buyer. All I see is shit every day. Can't possibly be that bad. He's like, ah. So I show up and there's car parts and bread all over the lawn. Wet, soggy bread and car parts everywhere, like covering every inch of the goddamn lawn. And I'm like, what is going on? He's like, oh, well, I work on cars. I'm like, so you need to decorate every piece of the front and back lawn with car parts? And my mother likes birds, so she hopes that the birds come, so she throws bread everywhere. So there's like 15 cases of Wonder Bread spread over the fucking lawn, and there's car parts everywhere. And he says it to me again. He goes, listen, I'm just preparing you for what you're going to see. And again, I'm like, sir, again, like, this is what I do. How big can it freaking be? So apparently what happened was they had a sewer backup in the house, and instead of fixing it, they took the cap off of the main sewer line in the basement. So every time they would flush the toilet, the sewage would pour out onto the basement floor, and you literally had human shit floating past the basement steps.
Oh, that's where that's from.
That's where that's from.
Oh.
So I went into the house, and the stench was so freaking bad that like my eyes were burning. I had to run out of the house, and I'm gagging on the lawn. So I did this like 4 or 5 times because I had to see the house, because it was so bad. Like if somebody lit a match in this place, the methane would have blown up half the block. So the house is trash, disgusting. Basement has like 6 inches of human shit sludge with water everywhere. I mean, it was horrible. And the lady that lived there was Italian, and all she spoke was Italian.
Yeah.
So she had changed one of the windows in the kitchen because I guess it got like blown out or whatever.
Yeah.
And all she's saying is Italian while I'm running in and out of the house. She's like, "Look at the beautiful window. Look at the beautiful window." I'm like, "Lady, the house stinks like shit. There's shit everywhere. The place is totally freaking destroyed. I can't even believe you're alive living in this place. And all you're doing is highlighting this beautiful window that's like $150. I went upstairs. I opened up the door, and the guy who I met there, his sister lived there. And she's sitting in a chair like this with like a Marlboro 1000, and it's in her mouth, and she's not moving. And there's like this much ash in the cigarette. And I thought she was dead. I thought she was sitting in the chair dead. So when I opened the door, she was standing there like this with the cigarette. I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." And I left the house and ultimately tried to buy it, but had a problem, and they ended up losing it to a tax lien, and it got auctioned off and taken back by the county. But that was definitely the worst house I've ever seen. It was really, it was special.
Wow, that's insane. I can't even think about doing anything like that. What's your story with the craziest tenant? I'm sure a lot of us who may be landlords watching this have had experiences with crazy tenants. If you had to pick who your experience with your craziest tenant by far, who would it be?
So I don't have any crazy tenant stories, believe it or not. My tenants are all like very cool. We really screen the hell out of these people. I'm not saying everyone's perfect, and we don't every once in a while get a call with like some nonsense. But in general, we have very, very little tenant drama. We have a lot of, program-based tenants, and we do a really nice job with the houses, and we inspect them every 4 months, and everyone's like very grateful and very respectful, and it's cool. I don't have any like, crazy tenant stories where I went in the house and they were, actually, you know what? I have one interesting. I bought a property, and he's not bad. It was just fucking weird. I bought a property, an apartment building, and I go in to check out all the units. And one of the tenants has he's growing plants, but he's not like growing them in pots. Like he came in and he dumped topsoil on the floor in clumps, and then would put seeds in there and water them and have lights all over the place. But they weren't in pots. They were just growing out of freaking just bundles of dirt on the floor. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But aside from that, yeah, I don't have any crazy tenant stories where they were like, just I don't know. Selling.
Yeah, I think maybe you're the exception to the rule. Like, as far as I don't know how old you am, but my father does, and he had some pretty crazy tenant stories. One I believe there was one lady, she hadn't paid rent for like 3 months. Every month there was some new excuse as to why she couldn't come up with the rent. Eventually, she had to get the eviction notice served, had to hire an attorney, and the whole process took about 6 months, and had to go to court for it to get the lady actually evicted. And when we actually, once she was evicted and we actually got a chance to go into the house, which we didn't get to do because she didn't really want us in the house. Like, she wouldn't let us come in to see the house. Everything was destroyed. The doors were taken off of the hinges. The fridge door had been ripped off. The house was infested with cockroaches. Copper wire taken off of, like, I don't even know who does that, but I guess you could sell it for something, I guess. Copper wires taken out. It was just a mess, and it cost almost. And there was I believe her son or something used to ride ATVs or motor vehicles, so there were tires everywhere. Very similar to your story. Probably not as bad though. And it actually got to a point, and this was in Pennsylvania, so it's not close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so at one point the town actually threatened to have my father arrested because if he didn't get rid of the garbage in the front lawn, if he didn't get rid of the tires, so they had to call the garbage company, and the garbage company wasn't giving us a good date, and like he legitimately thought he was gonna get locked up and thrown in jail. But thankfully, after a little bit of negotiation, you got the garbage out, but it ended up being almost $10,000 worth of work. So it was quite costly. And I like that you screen your tenants so much. I wish that we had an extensive screening process. Like if you had to screen a tenant, if I wanted to come in and live in a handsome home buyer property, or I wanted to be a tenant for the handsome home buyer, what qualification process would I have to go through? What were the qualities that you would look for me in a potential or prospect tenant?
So we do a full background check and credit check on the tenants. We also want letters of recommendation from the last 3 landlords. We don't want to call your current landlord because your current landlord wants you out. They're going to say anything. Yeah, he's freaking great. She's great. Yeah, take him. We call the landlords that you've lived in before that you no longer live. And then we just have like gut feelings. If you sit there and you talk to somebody and you look at their credit check and you look at their background report and you speak to their references, you're going to get a feeling of, is this the kind of person that I want to rent to? If it's a cash tenant, I also use the 3 times net rule. So basically, if I'm renting a house to you for $2,000 a month, your household has to net after taxes. Their income after taxes has to be 3 times that amount. If it's not, I will not rent to you.
Okay, that's a good rule. I wish we had thought of that earlier. We probably wouldn't have been in this mess. I mean, do you have a team that you work with, or do you do everything by yourself? As somebody like me who has serious control issues and has no money to be able to hire anybody, and had to build, for those of you that know my King Ali brand, my rapper brand, I built it up all by myself. Not really because I couldn't hire. It's not really because I didn't want to hire other people. Because I really couldn't hire other people because I was in high school, didn't have a lot of money going on, and I really didn't have a lot to be able to start hiring people to do certain jobs. And I wish I really honestly could have. I did have a couple freelance people do freelance work, but I never really had any employees. Do you do everything by yourself and really handle everything by yourself, or I mean, obviously it's a lot to handle. Do you have a dedicated team that works with you and makes sure everything runs smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, at this point we have like 25 people and we're growing,
Wow.
like crazy. Yeah, we'll probably double in size in the next year. So yeah, it's impossible to do all this stuff yourself. I mean, I buy 70 to 110 houses a year plus do commercial development. It's physically impossible. If you want to have control over everything, you're only going to grow to a certain point and you are going to be miserable and burn out, and your girlfriend, wife, or husband is going to hate your guts. So, I mean, what you have to do is at the beginning, you have to grind, man. You have to grind, do whatever you got to do. Work 20-hour days, start making some money. And when you make money, don't buy stupid shit with it. Take it and reinvest it into your business, start hiring people, and continue to grow the business and invest in yourself, get education, and then slowly but surely. The marathon, it's not a sprint. This get rich quick. I'm going to make a shit ton of money in 2-3 years kind of thing. It doesn't usually happen. Talking about like the 0.00000001% of people. So, and you can't give up. You have to love it. Like you have to really, really, really love it, because you have to love it when everything is going to shit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely get it, man. I definitely get it. I mean, there's a lot of commotion going on about, or sort of buzz about, these get-rich-quick schemes and ways to be able to sort of just skyrocket yourself to wealth. There are a lot of programs put out there by, at least I like to call them, or they're colloquially known as fake gurus, that teach investment strategies or day trading or how to build, $1 million wealth in 30 days and all of these other programs that unfortunately a lot of people fall prey to. And, the term that they throw out a lot is financial independence. The only person really achieving financial independence aren't the people buying the course. It's really the people who are selling the course, who are making tons of money,
Yeah.
basically fooling other people and things of that sort. So, I mean, it's really unfortunate that's going on, but a lot of people are taking advantage of that nowadays. And, I mean, there are a lot of people out there who pretend to know what they're talking about, who really don't know what they're talking about. And they sell these courses in order to sell this sort of get-rich-quick scheme. And I feel like it's a lot more work than that. Like you said, it's hours of grinding, years of grinding, working hard, putting effort in to actually be able to scale to a large and successful business. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. If it's too good, sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's not to say that a lot of these programs don't have valuable information. The thing is, people aren't willing to put in the time. Like, you have to say to yourself, yo, am I willing to put 10 years into this because I love it that much to be really successful at it? Some people might become successful faster, but really the difference is, all right, how much talent do they have for that given business? And then how much are they really working? If you're working 5 hours a day, 4 days a week, you're the person that's working 7 days a week 15 hours a day is going to get better than you a lot faster. And they're going to get a lot further than you a lot faster. And it's just about time and how much time you want to put into it.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you look up to, or role models, or programs, or books that you would recommend to read, or anybody that you really look up to in terms of learning the game and the finances and sort of that?
I don't really have like one person in particular. Like I go out on these really long, like 25, 30-mile bike rides. And every
Really?
time I go on a bike ride, I'll listen to like a different type of person that I respect and think intelligent, all kind, podcasts from different old school people, new school people. And just, I like to get a lot of different information and perspective from different people.
Yeah.
Because listening to this kind of stuff triggers creativity about what I'm doing in my mind. And then when I get done with the bike ride, my goal is to always have, 3 action items that I email myself. So I email myself these 3 action items, and the next day I implement them. Or these are like ideas that came from whatever or whoever I was listening to over during that bike ride. But I change it up. I mean, I've listened to everybody from like, Will Smith to Gary Vee to, old school private equity guys that are like in their 80s to Warren Buffett. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I've listened to basically everybody, just because you never know what you're going to learn.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand what you're saying, man. What I think a lot of people want to know is what's next for you. I mean, where are you going? What are your plans? What do you want to achieve? And like what most people say is they want to leave a legacy. It's not about, I think there's a saying out there, I'm not sure who said it exactly, but it's not about living forever. It's about creating something that does. And so I really want to ask you, what is going to be the Handsome Home Buyer's legacy? What do you want to leave behind? What do you want to be known as? Do you want fame, fortune, accolades? Do you want statues of you erected on Long Island? Is the fedora coming back? Like, what do you want to be remembered for?
You know what, man? I mean, as far as legacy goes, like I'm not really concerned about that. I don't need to have buildings and monuments in my name, nothing like that. I'm here for the ride, bro. I'm here for the ride. Like when I leave this planet, I just want to feel that I did everything and anything I wanted to do, and like I left it with an empty tank. So I don't want to live with regret. I don't want to be, 130 on my deathbed saying, yo, I should have taken that shot. I should have tried to build that. I should have done this. I just want to enjoy the ride. Life is an adventure. It's a blessing. Every day I want to get up and have a good time and do something different and challenge myself and spend it with people that I care about. And that's it. Past that, I don't care.
110%. I think I pretty much wrapped it up for today. Thank you for coming on here today, Charles. Before we go, gotta plug myself again. My name is real estate agent with Coldwell Banker Residential. If you're looking to buy or sell a home and you want to make the process as convenient as easy as possible, please give me a call. I want to help you. 631-604-8567. If you're looking for permits, be sure to give a call to Captain Permit. You can drop the number or whatever. Yeah,
I'm in. All right, I'm in. All right, I'm in. Yeah, obviously, if you need permits, plans, Captain Permit 516-513-8838, Captain_Permit on the IG. Obviously, I'm the Handsome Home Buyer, so if you have a house that smells like cat pee, is dated from the 1960s, has human shit floating past the basement steps, land, commercial property, you name it, I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. If you're looking to learn about real estate, you want a free education, I'm on every platform there is. Handsome_Home Buyer, Charles Weinraub, hit me up everywhere. LinkedIn, TikTok, IG, YouTube, you name it, I got it.
Yeah, we'll be dropping the links to those down in the description, so be sure to go to Charles's page and show him tons of love as well.
Awesome.
That pretty much wraps it up for today, guys. I'm your host, Ali Iqbal. I want to thank Charles for coming on to the podcast today. He's a very humble guy, so he's not going to say he doesn't want too much. I mean, if they were to erect a statue of me personally in Mastic or Manaville or somewhere like that, I'm not necessarily asking for it, but I wouldn't complain if you were to do that. So, if anybody's watching this and want to do that, feel free to do something like that. But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for today, guys. This is the Ali Iqbal Show. We do new content every single week. If you're interested in learning about real estate, Long Island, New York, current events, things of that sort, we cover all sorts of topics like that. Be sure to check in every single week. And that pretty much wraps it up.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. All the best. Talk to you soon.
Take care.